Friends, welcome to True and Fair Professionals Network. We are a startup non-CA firm founded by 6 chartered accountants with a combined experience of more than 100 years in the field of audit. Our desire is to enhance the quality of audit performance by audit firms, and that's why True and Fair was set up as a firm in August 2022. We are a young firm trying to develop content and other materials which could be used by the audit firms. So, as a background, I have been with a large audit firm for more than 28 years, and I took an early retirement in March 22. As I was retiring, I was wondering why were the large audit firms successful compared to many of the other firms. And one of the things and especially when the case where the partners in these large audit firms did not know each other, were not working with each other, or were in different geographies also, how did they collectively combine to form a successful venture was what set me thinking. And then I realized that these audit firms had certain common traits which was uniting these people to collectively succeed. What are those traits? They had a common culture, they had common practices and processes, common tools and technologies, a common training agenda, which help them unite together and collectively work in a very, very comfortable fashion. When I thought about this, I said, why can't this be made available to CA firms other than the large firms to collectively succeed in their audit performance? And that was the idea behind which True and Fair was formed. So what are we planning to do in True and Fair? We are planning to have quality policies. We are planning to provide technical guidance on audit. We are planning to provide an audit documentation and archival tool which will help audit firms audit document on their consistent basis. We will be providing monitoring services in terms of how audit firms practice their quality policies, which are the pitfalls which are there, what are the shortfalls which are there, and how they should go about improving them. We will be providing training programs for these audit firms in terms of how they need to train their talent so that audits can be performed in a better way. And we'll also be helping them in their practice protection. That means today the inspection regimen has increased on the auditors, and auditors do face a lot of queries from the regulators in terms of the audit work performed. We can help the audit firms navigate this regulatory landscape in terms of providing the most appropriate responses and comprehensive responses. And that was the idea behind which True and Fair was conceived. So in a nutshell, True and Fair will be offering the following services. One, a quality set of policies which the firms can follow. Second is a technical guidance on actual audit performance. Third is an audit documentation tool. Fourth is a monitoring service. Fifth is the training programs. And the sixth will be the practice protection work which we would like to provide to CA firms. True and Fair is actually blessed and honored to be advised by a set of senior professionals in the finance and accounting profession. And as a part of that, True and Fair has formed 2 advisory boards. One is a strategic advisory board and one is a technical advisory board. Strategic advisory board will advise True and Fair in terms of how True and Fair should conduct its business, how should it approach the audit market per se in terms of helping the CA firms, and how can True and Fair evolve as a reputed brand in the financial reporting ecosystem. The technical advisory board will help True and Fair or guide True and Fair in terms of the technical matters, complexities in accounting auditing, and how True and Fair should respond to those circumstances to enable audit firms to perform the audits appropriately. So let me just briefly introduce the advisory board members who are going to be part of the advisory boards. The strategic advisory board will have Mr. P.R. Ramesh, who's a retired chairman of Deloitte India, and he's an independent director now in many companies, reputed companies. We welcome him on the advisory board as a strategic advisory board. Second, we have Mr. Mohandas Pai. He needs no introduction. He was the former CFO of Infosys and a board member, and now he is an active investor having his own private equity venture. We have Mr. Suresh Senapati, former group CFO of Wipro and a board member on Wipro. He has been part of many of the regulatory committees formed, including NACAS, committees formed by SEBI, etc. So we welcome all these 3 on board on the strategic advisory board. Coming to the technical advisory board, we will again have Mr. P.R. Ramesh. He will be the common person between the strategic advisory board and the technical advisory board. And supporting him will be Mr. Sairam, who was the head of audit quality, risk and reputation in Deloitte India. I will have Mr. Harinder Jit Singh, who was the head of national technical function and regulatory in PricewaterhouseCoopers India. I will have Dr. Ashok Haldia, who was the former secretary of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and Mr. M.P. Vijay Kumar, CFO of CIFI Technologies and also a past chairman of the Accounting Standards Board of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So we welcome all these people and we are happy to have them on board to guide True and Fair evolve into a reputed firm in the field of financial reporting. If you look at our vision, what we want to be, True and Fair, we want it to be the benchmark standard setter in the area of financial reporting, especially in terms of audit and audit quality. And towards this vision, we are embarking on a journey with a mission to enhance the capacity, capability and quality of the audit firms. So we welcome you to True and Fair, and we'd like to be part of an exciting journey with the CA firms in the journey of quality and culture. Let me introduce you to the quality policies and audit practice policies which True and Fair envisages to roll out. We'll be rolling out these programs by March 23. We are in the process of content development currently because we just started our operations. So in terms of quality policies, I just explained that we will have two sets of quality policies. One is a basic set of quality policies which will be compliant with the standards on auditing, and one is going to be an enhanced set of quality policies which will also be compliant with the standards on auditing and professional standards, but it will also make it slightly more rigorous in terms of how the standards will get implemented in the audit practice in the real world. Now let me be very frank and open. The enhanced set of policies are only for firms which want to see a change in the way audits are being performed in India and want to be part of the change. It is going to be pretty exciting to be part of this change journey, and you are all most welcome to participate in this particular journey. So let me just introduce you to some of the policy changes which I want to bring about in the True and Fair quality policies and audit practices. First is the definition of audit. Now I don't know when audit was defined in the beginning. So when I did some Google search through Wikipedia, I learned that audit is from the Latin word audire, which means to hear. And it says that, Wikipedia says that in the medieval times when the auditors had to audit the books, the accountants used to read out the entries to the auditor, and auditors heard those entries and did the audit. And that is how the terminology auditor came into existence. Now I really don't know what is the real definition of audit and when it was formed, but in today's context, I believe the definition of audit to say that it will provide a reasonable assurance, I believe is very clearly outdated. The reason is this: today the market expectations have changed, the regulators' expectations have changed, the investors' expectations have changed. They want the auditors to do much more than providing a reasonable assurance. Now I fully subscribe to the fact that auditors can never give absolute assurance because of the inherent limitations in the audit relating to management overhead of controls and the concept of materiality, which is always used in the audit. That will never go, and therefore considering these two limitations, an absolute assurance is certainly not possible. But do we still call it a reasonable assurance? I would believe no, it is outdated. So I would want, and today with the use of technology, auditors are actually moving away from sampling. They are effectively testing 100% of the interested population which is affected by the risk, and therefore the level of assurance which the auditors gives is definitely more than absolute assurance, but certainly not absolute assurance. Why are we hesitating in calling out the level of assurance we are giving to the stakeholders in our audit reports? So I'd like to see a change in the wording. I wouldn't want to say that my audit provided reasonable assurance. I wouldn't want to say that. I would want to say my audit provided an assurance. I will remove the word reasonable. My audit provided an assurance subject to the inherent limitations in an audit, considering the concept of management overhead of controls and the concept of materiality. It provides an assurance that the financial statements are true and fair. I will avoid the terminology of reasonable assurance. I will try to enhance the level of assurance the auditors are giving because of the work they are actually performing, and also to meet the stakeholder expectations. So this is the first change I want to bring about in terms of the audit practices concerned. The second big change I want to bring out in the True and Fair policies is that the division of responsibility, which is today permitted under the standards on auditing, both under SA 600 and under SA 299, I will want to sort of ignore the eligibility to have division of responsibility, and I would want each of the auditors to take full responsibility on the financial statements, even if the audit is being signed off by another auditor. So let me give an example. When I say that I will take full responsibility, that I want to reflect it in substance, which means in the audit report, when I say that so and so subsidiary has been audited by another auditor and I have relied upon that work, I will go on to add and say that I have relied upon the work of the other auditor after performing the following procedures. I will describe the procedures which I am performing in terms of relying on the work of the other auditor. And if I look at today at 143 of the Companies Act, section 143 of the Companies Act, that act is also very clearly saying that the parent auditor has the right to inspect the books of the subsidiary, associates, joint ventures, etc. I don't believe this is just a right. I believe that it is also a duty and the right has been prescribed only to enable the auditor to perform his duties, because section 143 very clearly says that the title of the section itself is rights and duties of the auditor. So therefore I believe 143.1 actually casts a duty on the auditor to look at the books of the subsidiary and before giving an audit opinion. He is in a way, by looking at the book audit work papers of the competent auditor, is in a way looking at the books of the subsidiary, and therefore he has to definitely look at the competent auditor's work before placing reliance on it. Otherwise I believe that he is actually in violation of the Companies Act section 143, and that is a all pervasive section in terms of the auditor's rights and responsibilities are concerned. Now that is the second aspect. When it comes to joint audits, again the objective of joint audit is that two pairs of eyes look at the same information. Now if you divide the joint audit into two portions and each auditor happily does their work, then the objective of a joint audit, which is to have two sets of eyes looking at the same set of information, is lost. Therefore I don't believe that is the intention in which joint audits will be performed or should be performed, and therefore the joint auditor should take combined responsibility and full responsibility for the entire financial statements, irrespective of who the other joint auditor is and what work he has performed. Which means each joint auditor should have the ability to review the work of the other joint auditor, get a comfort that the work has been adequately performed, exchange proper notes between the two auditors to ensure that they come to a conclusion which is comfortable, which provides the assurance level which is required to issue an audit opinion. And therefore my audit methodology under the true and fair process will not recognize division of responsibility as a permitted option for the auditors to apply, and therefore they will have to take full responsibility on consolidated financial statements. They will have to take full responsibility on joint audits. This is the second change I want to bring about. The third change which I want to bring about is an audit sampling. Audit sampling again is getting slightly outdated with the client's use of technology, because most clients today are on ERP systems which makes available data in electronic form which the auditors can obtain, analyze and perform their audit work. And today what is happening is auditors are actually profiling the population in such a way that they are actually disaggregating the population into population of audit interest, and they are testing 100% of the population. Sampling is completely ruled out except for controls testing and areas of low risk where you don't need to spend time in the data analytics. Considering all of this, my methodology, true and fair methodology, will not recognize sampling as a appropriate method of audit for large entities. They will have to get into data analytics, and they will have to get into tools and technologies in terms of how audit should be performed, and not rely on sampling as a basis. These are some of the changes I want to bring about in the quality process and practices, and I am sure that firms which want to see the change in the audit will be able to appreciate what we are trying to do and subscribe to this particular view. Let me talk about the Adat tool which True and Fair will be offering. Now, when I was in the audit practice in my previous employment, I felt that the tools were fairly rigid and it did not really allow a thinking audit. There were checklists where you have to answer yes, no, and you come to a conclusion. And you know that any no answer is an issue. You should always answer a yes answer only. Therefore, people were spending very little time thinking about how the audit should be done. They were just completing the templates and rolling out the audit. I was getting frustrated with that because I used to start auditing in an era where there were no electronic tools available. We were doing manual audits, and therefore I was enjoying writing the whole thing and explaining to my partners as to what is the work I have done, etc. And today, in a rush world with technology available and a lot of information being carried forward from the last year to the current year, auditors are actually not spending time thinking, understanding their business and performing an audit, which is really of a high quality. And I felt that the tool which True and Fair develops therefore should consider some of the frustrations which I have experienced in my audit career and try to see how they can minimize it or eliminate it if possible optimistically. And therefore Adat is being built around as a tool which will force you or compel you to do a thinking audit. Let me give an example. When I am saying understanding the business, we are coming up with a template which is completely aligned with what is stated in SA 315 on understanding the business and understanding the risk environment. And suddenly we found that very basic things like understanding what the management looks as critical financial information is to be understood also by the auditors, because then they can improve their focus on those critical items, is also mentioned in SA 315. And conveniently we don't apply SA 315 so strictly in the actual audit practice. Now True and Fair will try to bring down the actual audit practice envisaged in the SA 315 into its audit documentation tool. Similarly, checklists. I would consider that any checklist which is based on a matter which is principle based. For example, standards on auditing is principle based. Standards on auditing sets the minimum expectations what the auditor should perform, and auditors are expected to perform higher than that whenever circumstances arise. Therefore, for standards on auditing, I am having a checklist which will not be a yes-no checklist, but the auditors will be forced to describe what they have done in the audit to comply with that particular standard on auditing. And in my view, if a regulator or any external inspector reads the responses given to the standards on auditing checklist, they will get a very clear indication of the quality of audit, because if the answers are properly drafted and given, it will really reflect the audit work that has actually been performed. And therefore, I am trying to move to a descriptive way of narrating things, which will force the auditors to do the things the right way. Even if they are not done during the audit, as a part of filling the checklist, they will realize that they can go back and improve their performance in the actual testing areas. So I am trying to come up with a checklist which will be a thinking checklist, not an inking sort of a checklist. I am also considering the fact that as auditors, I have been always worried about technology. I don't understand that. I'm used to debits and credits, assets, liabilities, income and expenditure, but I don't understand technology. Therefore, this audit documentation tool will be very comfortable to auditors to use, because it will be predominantly based on Word and Excel, which are comfortable applications for every auditor today, and it will be based on that, and it will have a very, very exhaustive library of content in terms of risks, of material misstatements for each account balance, what planned procedures can be performed, illustrative audit programs which the auditors can consider, etc. And it will be a very, very comprehensive base. In my view, if I look at it in a pie chart, technology will be probably 15-20% of what the tool relates to. 80% will be relating to content, and therefore I am going to be content heavy, not technology heavy. We will grow in technology as we come up with later versions based on the feedbacks which we get from the audit firms. I don't want to impose a technology on the auditors just because it is looking fancy. I want it to be constructive, creative, and it should help the auditors in performing the audit. And in today's world, when the attrition levels are so high with talent and you don't get trained resources for performing the audit, if this tool is self-sufficient, I believe that an auditor who opens this tool and starts working on it, by strictly following the guidelines and instructions given to the tool, will be able to achieve at least 80-85% satisfaction in the audit score. So that is the objective with which this tool has been built up. It has been built with a self-contained model that any fresh chartered accountant or article clerk will be, who can understand English, can open this document and perform the audit as explained in that. Of course, professional judgment, etc., skepticism, etc., comes by experience that this tool cannot implement, but it will at least give you guidance in terms of how things can be done in those areas too, and that is where the tool has caused a lot of advantage. I won't talk about the basic features of the tool, because like review note preparation or sign offs, etc., they are all fundamental to any audit documentation tool. I don't want to describe about it. There are materials which we will be making available in our stall. People can look at it and get a comfort as to what other features are there in this particular tool. So my partner Brinda, who is leading the technology initiative for developing the Adat with an outside vendor, will explain the technological features of Adat, and you will see that it perfectly synchronizes with what I have been explaining as the functional features and also the simplicity of this particular technology which is being developed. I'm going to the next one.
Yeah, you can. 1, 2, and the next row, go for it.
Let me talk about monitoring. Monitoring traditionally is not being given adequate importance in many areas, and in my view, monitoring is actually the most powerful tool when it comes to quality, because monitoring is a mirror which reflects what exactly has happened in the actual audit practice and points out to areas which are good, which are deficient, and which need improvement, so that audit firms can put up constructive audit plans to mitigate those particular deficiencies or areas of improvement. And monitoring is definitely going to be a very, very powerful tool for whichever firm is looking to continuously enhance quality. Let's all admit, quality is a journey, it is not a destination. And therefore, there will be scope for improvement even in the best of the audits, and a monitoring is a mechanism which can help you improve year on year, further and further, till you are at a very high level of quality. And therefore, True and Fair takes a lot of pride in offering monitoring as a service line to audit firms to help them improve their quality True and Fair can work with the audit firms, not just with the evaluation of the results, but also doing a deep dive as to what caused that particular audit observation. We call it a root cause analysis, and find out what exactly caused the problem, find out an appropriate mitigation plan to remediate that particular root cause problem, help the audit firm implement that problem, and in the subsequent year monitor the effect of the mitigation on that particular area as it does the inspections again in the subsequent year. Monitoring is a very powerful tool, and audit firms should get the maximum benefit out of it by subscribing to such a feature. So True and Fair will be offering training programs to chartered accountants and audit firms. True and Fair envisages two sets of training, one to the professionals in the audit firm specific to the audit firm's requirements. So when I was visiting across the country trying to meet with chartered accountants, trying to understand their expectations from the True and Fair sort of a model, one of the feedback which I was getting very clearly, at least from the NBFC and banking sector, was that these firms said, thanks to RBI, because of the rotation rules, these Indian firms are getting exposed to NBFC and bank audits in a larger way because conflicts are arising to the other audit firms from subscribing to those audits because of the rotation rules which are there. And these firms are saying getting a job of an NBFC audit and bank is available today in the market, but the thing is we don't have the skill sets to deliver these audits, especially considering the fact that we will have we will have dependency on IT audits, we will have dependency on valuation requirements and stuff like that. So when I felt about it, I said that therefore there's a very important training program required to the audit firm specifically in terms of what are their needs of training, and True and Fair will envisage to provide those services to the audit firms. The second set of training I want to give is for chartered accountants or emerging chartered accountants who wants to make a career in audit. And for them, what happens is today, when I was with the large firm audit, we used to hire a person, we used to train the person for 6 months to a year, and at the end of the 1 year, that person, once he's ready to actually constructively do the job, he'll quit and go. And therefore, the cost of training for these firms were very, very large. And I thought that if I make available chartered accountants who are ready to onboard to any audit firm and ready to roll out on a constructive audit right from first week, that will help these firms in terms of attracting better talent. And therefore, I plan to have a curriculum for the chartered accountants and aspiring chartered accountants to train them on audit in a simulated environment, real life environment, in terms of how the audit should be performed, so that when they go and apply to an audit firm, with the scores which True and Fair will score them for, this will be a scored program, and with the scores which True and Fair has, they stand a better chance of entering into some of the larger firms and better firms and perform audits literally from day one when they join the firm, because they would have already gone through a simulated training program for these audits. And that is the vision which is envisaged. Training programs, obviously, will take some more time to actually roll it out. Audit firm training may start this year itself, but training of the chartered accountants and all, we need to build a curriculum around it. We need to find a process for evaluating the chartered accountants, because we want to conduct like a project or an exam philosophy and score these candidates, so that the scores can reflect the capability of these candidates when they go for a job interview. So this chartered accounting training may happen in this next year in phase 2 of True and Fair's evolution, but the training to the audit firms can probably commence this year itself. That's what I envisage. And we look forward to launching all these services by March 23 to audit firms, such that you are able to catch the timeline and able to demonstrate certain credentials before joint audits become mandatory. MAR is probably going to be made mandatory in India. You will have at least 1 or 2 years credentials to showcase to the companies to whom you would want to propose for a joint audit pitch and bid, and the credentials of yours can be established in the 1 or 2 years having worked with True and Fair. We look forward to working with you constructively going forward in the journey of enhancing quality. Thank you.